breaking news here on Texans Today as another major injury impacts this Houston Texans offense. We already had multiple starters out yesterday up against the LA Rams, and this loss just got a little bit worse with this news coming in today from Aaron Wilson. Sources, Texans starting tight end Cade Stover broke his foot against the Rams and is out indefinitely. Stover, who was in a boot after the game, caught a team-high 4 passes for 22 yards on 4 targets on Sunday. And, I mean, the Texans only kept 2 tight ends on the active 53-man roster, Stover being one. Second year, supposed to be a breakout. The former Ohio State teammate of C.J. Stroud. They have a good connection. This is a massive blow to this Texans offense. And I'm going to break down what the Texans can do from here, who they have available, and what moves they might make. But this is why you subscribe. When breaking news happens, we break it down here on Texans Today 100% free. So if you love the Houston Texans, want to stay up to date, hit that subscribe button 100% free and join the channel. As I mentioned, out indefinitely, a massive blow. That broken foot, I mean, who knows how long that's going to take this guy to get back. And I know he's a country strong guy. That's the one thing C.J. Stroud, this team, they talk about with Cade Stover. He's a farmer, a rancher, a guy who's out there baling hay. So I'm not surprised that he went ahead and played through the injury that he did. But, I mean, the Texans, they're light on tight end. They're light. I don't have a tight end 3 under Harrison Bryant because he got brought up, but technically he's on the practice squad, guys. So now with the injury to Cade Stover, the Texans have 1 tight end. I imagine they're going to put him on like a, short-term PUP, short-term IR, and then move Harrison Bryant to the active 53-man. But still, that kind of leaves a hole because they were planning on having 3 tight ends, maybe moving up Harrison Bryant when needed. And I just don't know what the Texans are going to do with the tight end spot now with this injury and with the fact that, we don't know when we'll get Cade Stover back. Do they have to make a big move and, trade for somebody? Do they have to go out and sign somebody necessarily? That's what I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. But we're going to talk about this injury. We're going to talk about a lot of injuries on the offense during today's show. How concerned are you with the injuries to this offense already? Let me know. Scale it 1 to 10. 1, you're not concerned at all. 10, you are hitting the panic button. Let me know down in the comment section. You get hit with the YouTube ad break, all good. Scroll on down and let me know. I'm at about a 7-8 right now. I mean, it was little things, right? Christian Kirk late in the week, he was ruled out. So obviously that's a little bit of a blow because you have a veteran wide receiver that could have definitely helped out yesterday with somebody that C.J. Stroud could have, thrown some hot routes to, gone too early. You also have Ed Ingram, which totally messed up the offensive line yesterday with him being out. They had to shift Titus Howard back to guard, Ursary to right tackle where he'd been playing so good at left tackle before. Cam Robinson comes in. Then you have the just so much mixing and matching. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned with these Texans offensive injuries so far. We were all worried about C.J. Gardner-Johnson and the defense, but it looks like we should be more worried about the Texans offense and those injuries on that side of the football. Now, going back to Cade Stover, some options that this Texans team can look at. They have Harrison Bryant. They have Luke Lachey as well on the practice squad, somebody who they drafted in the 7th round out of Iowa. They liked him. They, really wanted to be able to get him back on the practice squad. They're able to. So now I imagine they just kind of bump everybody up in line, right? They say, all right, Harrison Bryant's our tight end 2. Luke Lachey comes in as the tight end 3. They could also look at Jakob Johnson, who they did activate yesterday during the Rams game, and they listed him finally as a fullback. They had been listing him as a tight end all this time. But they could, in essence, play Jakob Johnson in a kind of both fullback tight end role where he kind of does both duties and is the tight end 3 and is the fullback. So we could see that for the Texans as well. And if you're looking at maybe adding somebody in the free agent market, there's actually some halfway decent names that are out there. Jordan Akins, Hayden Hurst, Gerald Everett, Peyton Hendershot, C.J. Uzomah were the 5 that stuck out to me whenever I looked up the top free agents available. Obviously, Akins drafted by the Texans. You have Gerald Everett, didn't kind of play at the same time with the Rams as Nick Caley was there, but has a somewhat connection in that he played for the Rams with Sean McVay. Peyton Hendershot was with the Cowboys and then with the Chiefs last year. Hayden Hurst and CJ Uzomah have kind of been around the NFL. So all these options are available. Gerald Everett I'll just say it, he kind of intrigues me. Kind of intrigues me a little bit. Do you think the Texans need to go out and sign a tight end? And if they did, do you think it's one of these guys? Let me know down in the comments. I'm kind of leaning Gerald Everett. I think it's an interesting choice. Pass-catching tight end. Maybe help C.J. Stroud a little bit, like a little underneath receiver a little bit more. Now, coming up, more Texans injury news to break down because it was not just Cade Stover. I already mentioned a couple guys. We'll talk about them in just a moment. But today's show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. I love PrizePicks. My producer Tex, he loves PrizePicks as well, and I know you will too. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. I love playing PrizePicks. It's super simple. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. And if you're wondering, hey, Monday night, what's your lineup looking like, Cuggs? This is what I have from our Bears guy. This is his lineup that he put out there. He has Caleb Williams, kind of an easy, 0.5 passing touchdowns. The more on that. J.J. McCarthy, 0.5 interceptions, his first start in his hometown. He grew up in Chicago. That's a testy one. And then Olamide Zaccheaus, he has more on 20.5 receiving yards. You can make your own lineup tonight for football if you want. Just do it over with our friends at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so I mentioned this earlier. Ed Ingram was a late scratch. Showed up on the injury report maybe on Thursday or Friday, and then game day was listed as one of the inactives. And this shuffle really kind of screwed up this Texans offensive line all over. It made, you want the best 5 guys out there, and with Ed Ingram out, you did not have the best 5 out there because you had to move Titus Howard into right guard. Ariante Ursery had to go to right tackle. Cam Robinson had to move up to left tackle. And then when Cam Robinson got hurt, kind of your worst nightmare, you had to play Blake Fisher a little bit. So I really hope Ed Ingram is just a 1-week thing and he's able to come back this week. But the guy sitting next to him right there, Jake Andrews, he's on the same wave, right? Jake Andrews was carted off of the field yesterday. Jarrett Patterson had to step in, and maybe the most comfortable Texans backup that we have is at the center spot with Jarrett Patterson. I think most Texans fans would agree with that. But Jake Andrews, how long is he going to be out? Because he tried to walk to the locker room yesterday and had to stop halfway through because he couldn't take it, had to get carted off. He's not coming back next week. If he does, it's going to be in a very limited capacity. So this Texans offensive line, after a very shaky week 1, is kind of in this flex of you don't know what you're going to get, the starting 5 that you're going to get on Monday Night Football against the Bucs in week 2. And going on the wide receiver room, staying on the offense, Christian Kirk was a late scratch during the week. I think he was ruled out on Friday. And I really do think he could have been a big help to C.J. Stroud in this week 1 game. You saw, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel had a lot of reps. Xavier Hutchinson was in there quite a bit. Justin Watson. But I think Christian Kirk, if he's in the game, that really helps bring a different dynamic to this Texans offense. A quick, speedy interior guy, a slot demon, as Nico Collins like to call him. I know we have kind of that vision for Jalen Noel, but in his first career start, that's asking a lot from the rookie. It would have been nice to have Christian Kirk out there to kind of help you out and see, what this offense would look like with a veteran presence in the wide receiver room instead of Nico Collins and then kind of like a lot of young guys, right? In the wide receiver room, too, you had another veteran. Braxton Berrios was a scratch from this game. He was injured. So I think the reports that I've heard is Berrios much more likely to return week 2 than Christian Kirk. And we'll see where it's at with Kirk if he's able to go in this week 2 matchup up against the Buccaneers, because their defense is pretty good as well. So I'd like to see this offense at full strength if we could. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about a defensive player, Jalen Reed. He still is on the designated return list for this Texans team. Obviously injured during the preseason. And I think he could definitely add something to this squad, right? I think he can add something to this secondary and help out this Texans defense just a little bit. Obviously, not as big of a concern. The Texans only gave up 14 points yesterday, but still, you'd like to see the 6th-round rookie out there, maybe help out in special teams a little bit more. We'll see if it's maybe week 2, week 3 that we see Jalen Reed out there on the field. That's all I have for you for this edition of Texans Today. Once again, the big news, Cade Stover out indefinitely with that foot injury. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Cuggs. I'll be tweeting around the Texans all throughout the season, all throughout the year. And if you made it to the end of the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is why you sub for Texans news and rumors all season long.